Hey Guru Nation, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. Look, I wanted to make a quick video on the differences because people are still confused between an in-house CRA and an actual CRA. And this industry doesn't do anything to help demystify job roles. Matter of fact, in-house CRA doesn't even exist at many sponsors and CROs. This role sometimes is called remote site monitor, sometimes it's called clinical trial assistant. So that adds to even more confusion. Whenever you are confused, just look at the job titles and responsibilities. So I'm going to go through the responsibilities of whatever this role is called. Sometimes it's called a remote site monitor. Sometimes CROs or sponsors have both titles, CTA, in-house CRA, and they split up these tasks. But what it boils down to is, to make it easy for me to understand, and hopefully you as well, CRA, like the actual CRA, those are the ones that get paid more. Those are the ones that require more experience. And those are also the ones that have direct interaction with the data of the patients. And they monitor the data of the patients for accuracy, for GCP compliance, for protocol compliance. So when you hear about source documentation, source data review, source data verification, and even getting into things like protocol compliance, well, especially getting into things like protocol compliance with investigational product accountability, that's all CRA. And that is very difficult, I would say impossible to do as somebody with no research experience. Typically, to be a CRA, you need either clinical research coordinator background and experience or in-house CRA / remote site monitor experience, or whatever you call it. So now that we get the CRA out of the way, let's focus on some of the more entry-level roles. Although if you look at job boards, they're not, even these in-house CRAs, remote site monitors, they're not going to say entry level. They don't need to post entry level, right? They're going to usually have filters. They're going to usually want you to self-limit yourself from applying. So they only want people who have enough confidence and enough knowledge to feel comfortable applying to a role like this. But more or less, it can be entry level. So oftentimes it's going to also still be CRC, going into in-house CRA, going into CRA, or CRC, going to remote site monitor, going to CRA. Or sometimes you get CRC going straight to CRA. Or sometimes you've got no background in research whatsoever, getting hired as an in-house CRA or a study startup specialist, although that's not the norm, right? My CRA Academy and CRC Academy can help you with both of these things. Even though CRA Academy is called CRA Academy, I tell every single student, do not expect to be a CRA with your first job, even though we give you real experience on your resume on a real breast cancer study, and we're working on a few other rare disease studies. Our interns are actually going to monitor real studies and have experience on their resumes. You're probably still going to go the route of in-house CRA and remote site monitor. So let's cut to the chase. What do in-house CRAs, remote site monitors, clinical trial assistants, all this other stuff you want to call, what do? They work at the CRO and sponsor level, and they do mostly the regulatory filings for the sites. So they follow up on things like, is your 1572 updated? Are your GCPs on file for all staff? Are your IATA certifications on file? Are CLIA waivers or CLIA certificates on file? Are the monitors scheduling their appointments and filing their confirmation letters and their follow-up letters? Are sites enrolling? That one blurs the line between responsibility of an in-house CRA and a regular CRA, and oftentimes it is a shared responsibility. But if you think about regulatory maintenance, investigator site file maintenance, that's what these people do. Then they also get into certain things like supplies. How many lab kits are on site? Are there any that are going to expire? Again, this could be a shared responsibility between the in-house CRA and the CRA. In short, think of the in-house CRA as an assistant to the actual CRA without doing anything source data related. So nothing really consent related, no source data verification, nor source data review, no investigation of product accountability. Everything else is fair game though. Alright, so a lot of that entails just regulatory documents, maintenance, supplies, investigation of product supplies, recruitment issues, any other supplies associated with the trial. Maybe the site needs another ECG machine, maybe the site needs more electrodes for their ECG, maybe the site needs more patient recruitment information or material, maybe the site needs more phlebotomy equipment for the study, maybe it's a whole number of things that could possibly fall into the responsibility of the in-house CRA. Now, interestingly enough, the in-house CRA these days almost has as much interaction, if not more interaction with the sites than the actual CRAs, because the actual CRAs are busy and their job is stressful and they're going from site to site, sometimes doing 3 site visits a week, 10 to 15 site visits a month, where they're actually going on site, or if it's a remote monitoring visit, they're doing a full day of source data verification, source data review, protocol compliance, GCP compliance. So they don't necessarily have time to deal with the mundane admin tasks that the in-house CRAs do. So then the in-house CRAs can deal with those things and say, okay, sites, this is what's still missing in your ISF, this needs to be updated. They even get into some things like DOA logs and training logs, although there is a lot of overlap between the in-house CRA and the CRA. Point is, the in-house CRA keeps the CRA on track, as well as keeping the site on track. And then the in-house CRA I've experienced at my site does a lot of the weekly follow-ups with the site. Hey, what's your enrollment projections looking like this week? What can we help you with? Here's what we've discovered in your investigator site file. We're still missing this updated 1572 for our trial master file. This gets communicated to the site. This also gets communicated to the actual CRA to make things more efficient, more smooth. Then when there's database locks and CRAs, the real CRAs are really overburdened and stressed out, the in-house CRAs can help out as well. They can sometimes get into, hey, how could we help you as far as like answering queries, getting queries on figured out. And while they can't actually get into the nitty-gritty of the protocol and the protocol compliance, that's the CRA's role, they can help with strategies. Maybe the site tells the in-house CRA, hey, you know what? We'd like to hire an assistant to help with the backlog of queries, but we may need to revise our budget. Well, the in-house CRA can bring this back to the sponsor or the project manager and say, hey, you know what, the site has a justifiable cause. This is what they want to do. So it's things like this that the CRA used to actually do all this stuff. Like 10 years ago, if you rewind 10 years ago, CRA used to do their job currently and the in-house CRA job. This is a way for the CROs and quickly the sponsors to figure out, hey, we can actually streamline this. Because remember, CROs are a for-profit business. We can streamline this to give our CRAs more site visits to monitor, but also keep their burden low, because now we have support staff for the CRA. So in theory, it works well. I actually think it works well even practically speaking as a site owner. You get used to your in-house CRA. They don't always have the answers, like protocol-specific answers like the CRA does, but they can get the answers sometimes quicker because, again, the CRAs are busy and traveling and monitoring. They may not always be as accessible as the in-house CRAs. So that's in a nutshell what an in-house CRA, remote site monitor, clinical trial assistant, whatever else the job titles are. And if you're ever confused, just remember, real CRA, source data verification, source data review, investigation of product accountability, protocol compliance, GCP compliance. In-house CRA, admin stuff. Do we have all the filings? Does the site have enough this? Does the site have enough that? More admin, mundane tasks where you don't really even need to know the protocol that well. And matter of fact, a lot of these in-house CRAs are focused on multiple studies because they don't really need to know the protocol. They can get an answer quickly for protocol-specific stuff, but that's not their role, though. The role of the CRA is to be the protocol expert. I think that in a nutshell is the easy way to differentiate between the two. If you're research naive, unless you're a registered nurse and a BSN RN, and even then, you almost have no chance of being a CRA without some kind of previous experience, either as an in-house CRA, CRC, and then they get into other, even more specific job titles like study startup specialist, where they're doing the regulatory documents and the investigator site file follow-ups for the site, but specifically for a study startup period only. That gets into even more of a long tail of these job titles, job responsibilities, and just adds more to the confusion. But hopefully it helps. Both of these roles never work for sites. They work for CROs and sponsors. If you tell me, no, they do work for a site, well, that site is probably a phase 1 site that also has a CRO department and a monitoring department as well. Hopefully it clears up some confusion. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Bye-bye.